If you guys are going to do a full alignment on your Super 70, one of the main things is checking your bearings and making sure that they're all good, you know, and these have big divots in them, as you can see here. So once you get a pretty big divot in them, it lets the head drop down some, and then it'll also let your head shift a little bit. So what you want is you want to, if you're going to do a full, you know, all back to new alignment, is you want to get all these changed to where when you line it up, you're not got drop down and stuff. You want everything to be pretty much brand new, or at least not huge grooves in here. If they're smooth and rolling fine, you don't really have to worry about it. But one of the pains is a lot of people run into is being able to get the weight off of this bearing here. One of the easiest things I've found is obviously a lot of people put this up and under here, which props the head up, but a lot of times it won't take the weight off of these enough to where you can spin them freely. So what I've done is I put a block up and under here, loosen those just slightly, because I'm going to change those to new anyway, the roller bearings that are on the bottom, because you've got two here, which I've already changed them, but you can see what I've got. So there's two right here, one here, and one down here. And loosen those so there's no pressure on them binding them, so they can flex in and out a little bit, not fully because the whole head will fall off, but just enough to where you can jack the bottom up to let the pressure off. And then both of these will be loose to where you can spin them, or at least they'll be really, you know, to where you can turn them just a little bit. And once you get enough pressure off there, then you won't have this bolt back here binding really hard, and you can turn it really easy to get it in and out. Now, I would recommend changing that bolt out, which is this bolt here, the really big bolt that is on the main, holds it in here. As you can see, you've got that bolt there. These for us have broke 2 or 3 times right at the head because they're a lower grade bolt, and I've seen them break anywhere from right here to here. So I would just order this bolt and replace it when you're doing all this. Like I said, you don't have to do this but every couple thousand hours, and I've had this bolt actually break in between that time period, so I'd recommend doing that. Now, another thing, once you do that, to get this out, at least on this model, the 15 to 17, this bar is here, so you can't get this out without removing the bottom bearings right here first. So you got to remove that, which is the 2 bearings I just undid, which go through here. You can see them. They sit right there on the bottom of that, like so. And you take that bolt out to get it out of here. You can't get it out otherwise, at least on this model. Like I said, so the brand new ones might be a little different, but you want to keep those in order too. So just take you a picture so you know how they go, because like I said, they go exactly like this. Your bolt will come through, your nut will be on the bottom. It'll be like this. This will be sticking out the bottom here with the nut on it. Hey, yeah, I always need help. Come on over here. I need is all I can get. But once you get those off there, like I said, you can change these pretty easy. It's just the keeper ring right here. Take your set of little pliers, open that up, pull your bearings off, change them. And like I said, it lets all the pressure off here. As you can see, you can spin these real easy. Back ones are the same way when you lift that head up, and it just makes it way easier, and you don't have any bolts binding and all the nonsense because the head's not got it weight on it, and it's tilted back to keep the bearings from sinking. But like I said, you need to loosen the bottom ones. Do not have the bottom ones as tight as they're supposed to be when you go to lift that up, because if you press that up, when those are tight, it's going to shove your bearings out, pushing up against that ring because that's beveled. So that's just my recommendation on that. When you go to change these bearings out, this is a 5/16 hex key, and this is a 15/16 nut. And changing these out by yourself is a whole lot easier with a right angle, because you can just put the right angle on there and then hold this, and it just makes it 100 times easier. Instead of trying to have a wrench or you know, a socket or something like that on there, you can just hit the button, it undoes it, put the new one on. Simple as that. I really recommend getting you a right angle, whether it's Ingersoll Rand, Milwaukee. I've got Milwaukee and Ingersoll Rand. Both of them do anything we need to do and more. Right here's the number off these in case you guys are wondering. In case you want to get them offline, you don't want to get them from Woodmizer. MG305SZZ3. And the old bearings actually say 0215 Woodmizer 012797. And there's some other ones. There's a bunch of different ones of these that they've tested over the years, and we actually are testing some that are not Woodmizer brand. If they work out, I'll let you guys know. And then, like I said, this here, you just put the little thing in there, pinch it out, boom, pull your bearing off. The big bolts on top are a 1 5/16 inches, as you can see here. And I like to use this once I get it loose to run it out, because it's so long and it's fine thread, but just be careful because you cross thread that real quick. But you'll need one that's at least that deep. I'd like a little bit deeper to run it down in there and back, and then use the rest of your wrench or whatever to tighten it up. I always clean, if you look in here, put new belts on and a new blade to align it. But you can see, I've taken this off to look at this and see there's a little bitty buildup in several spots around the corners where the belts are. If you look right there, take your screwdriver and make sure you knock all those off, because if the blade wheel is pushing down, because you know these belts are a certain size, so you want the belts, everything to be proper as if it was new, and as it wears down and you put the new belt on, you may get maybe a 1/16 of change or something, compared to if it's pushing down another 1/8 and you got an 1/8 there and then you got the 1/8 of wear. So just make sure that you're cleaning this and getting all them little, see now it's smooth. And I always like to take a rag, put WD-40 on it. I usually do this on like a Friday. And then that way over the weekend it's pretty dry, and go around that so it gets that little rust spot off there, because that's immediately where sawdust will stick again. Now I'm just gonna pick a number on the bed frame, like 15, 16, somewhere around 20. You know, I like to be high enough that I can keep my side arms up and never have to move them down or up, and move the head backwards and forwards across the rails to measure the blade distance from the bottom. So you remove these, your guide blocks, tighten the blade all the way up, and then we're going to go down through here and check all this to see where it's at, see how off each one is compared to each side of the blade. So what I do then is, from the blade to the back of the blade to the bottom of the bed rail, like right here, take a tape measure or something that's, you know, able to measure each one on each side down through there, and get them level, like the blade, the back of the blade from each one of these. So the back of your blade, if it measures 18 on that side and 18 on this side, you're good. But like this one the other day, we had to take 2 of these bolsters off. This one's 18 5/8. This one's 18 1/2. So I've got to adjust this one. All the rest of them are the same. And so this one is got to be adjusted to get it to where it's just like those. It's about 1/8 off. So I'm going to adjust it and then get the rest of it. These are a 15/16, and this, I think, is 1.25 inches. I just use a crescent wrench on it because it's just easy adjustability. Something like this just makes it a whole lot faster. Now that I've got those bunkers level with the back of this blade on both sides down through there, I'm going to tilt the head hire a 1/16. Now, some mills, the better your bearings are, the less you're going to get head droop. But if you've got an older mill, you can see if you pull down on that, it sucks down a little bit. So what happens usually when you go into a log, it kind of pulls down on that, creating pressure because it's forcing it to cut, which is causing a bunch of force. So you kind of want the outside. I usually go just 1 notch. So, you know, below an 1/8, 1/16 or so on the outside. Now, sometimes you can leave it perfectly flat and it'll cut better just depending on the mill. But it's super easy to adjust. You basically have these bolts on the side. You've got a keeper bolt, which is here. You let this off so the pressure isn't there. But if this is tight, you shouldn't have to let this off. You should be able to just tighten this. And you can see before where I've marked, those are old marks, but you can see where I've marked them over time. I mean, I've adjusted this thing, goodness gracious, so many times since I've had it. But you can see here, but if these are all new and snug, you should be able to just turn this, because this is just a keeper. So you should be able to just barely back that. I would back this off anyway, but just barely back that off. Back your other one off. There's 3 of them. And this one, you don't want touching all the time. You want it to where you can just spin it in there, but it kind of touches. But you want your outside too to touch. So up and under here, you can see, you want this one touching, that one down there, and the middle one to where you can spin it. So, I mean, just barely spin it. You don't want it where it's like a big gap between there. Now I'm going to measure how far this, basically I want this to be shooting straight across through here, just like this. So to make it shoot straight across like that, I'm going to have to go in there and run this, measure it right here, and then measure it on this side and see where it's at. And you basically just take a tape measure or, you know, something like this and see where you're at on the back of your blade. So if you put this up here, well, we'll go back here so it's easier for you to read. But if I do it like this, put it at the back of the blade where this is sitting directly on the back there, put my thumb there, and then look at the front of this, and it's at 4.5 across through there, or 110. Whatever you want to look at, just find you a spot that you know what it is, measure it, and then check it over here and see what it is. And you want that to run perfectly straight across that blade. Another thing is you want your blade to track on both your wheels. So you want to check that and make sure that you're tracking properly on your wheels before you do this. Because if you're off on your tracking, then you get all this set up, then you're going to have to move your blade roller back and forth. But mine have been tracking perfectly. I already set all that. So if you need to adjust the tracking, you're going to adjust it with these bolts here, as you can see. And if you've got a Super 70, watch this. A lot of people I know, this is cracked. And then also in the framing right up here where this bar goes across through here, that has cracked too. So keep an eye on that stuff if you guys got a Super 70 like this. In here, watch your welds. Mine's cracked there slightly. I fixed all that before it broke out. But that's something you definitely want to keep an eye on. And you might want to knock the paint off if you see like flaking and can't see a crack, just to make sure that it's not cracked. But here's how you track the blade on this side. There's another one of these on the other side in the housing you'll see. Now to do the blade guide, you're going to use this and this bolt. See that? If you run it in, it's going to shift this out. And if you run this in, it's going to shift that out. So you're just trying to get it to where this is about the same all the way across through there. So my arm, and another thing too, when I do this, I put a brand new blade on wheels and I pump this to about 85 to 86 PSI. Sometimes we cut straight hickory. I run this at 90 PSI or so, which puts a lot more pressure. You know, the more PSI, the more pressure you've got pushing on that arm and stuff, spanning that blade out tighter. but I like to be about 85, 86. But I've got it going the same, you know, in and out. It's straight, going straight across. Now I've got to do the vertical on here. And so I'm gonna, this right here does your vertical, these two, as you can see here. But I'm going to run this in and out and put it over a bed rail and see where the arm is as far as tilt, and make sure that it's not going downhill or uphill, you know, like this or this, that this has the same consistency, you know, going through there. And you can check it. You can check it off. You actually want to check it off your blade from here to here. So I wasn't thinking right, but don't use the bed rail. Use this to here, and that way you know that this is tracking up and down with your blade, because we're going to put deflection on it after. So you're going to use the blade, bottom of the blade, to right here. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just taking this, putting it right there, and I've got maybe a hair follicle below 1 inch from the bar to the blade. And when I run it out here, it should be the same. You can see there, it's a hair follicle below 1 inch. And it's that way all the way across through there, you know, when the arm goes back and forth. Because if you got it like this, you're not gonna have as much down pressure. And another thing that you've got to watch for is if you get these and they're loose or worn out, when you put blade tension on that, if you watch your arm, a lot of times it'll fold up. So if these are wore out and it's grooved in there and the groove's not valleyed right, it'll let that go up an eighth, even more sometimes, or down. When you put pressure on it, watch this when you let the pressure off, see if it floats down big time. If it does, you need to replace these. Some people like this one. If you're, you know, these are worn out in here and they're not newer, the bevel, like I was saying, will be incorrect, letting this float more. But a lot of people will make this anywhere from a 1/16 to an 1/8 down on the inside more. That way when you put blade pressure on it, it can come up to the proper height. So, you know, if you've got a lot of sway in it, mine's probably a 32nd below over here, but my stuff's brand new on there and everything's tight. You can always go back and adjust that super easy. It takes a couple seconds. But the next thing is I'm going to get these blade guide rollers an 1/8. Basically the back of the blade, I run 1.5 inches, so keep that in mind. Basically the back of the blade right here is going to be exactly on the line right here. So it's got a gap, one roller gap between there, to let that blade go back and hit that when you're pushing it real hard. Because if it rubs that all the time, you're getting a lot of friction, you're going to eat the back of your blade up and it'll crack and bust from the back. So that's something I always do. And let's see if I can get you from the bottom. You can see it there. To move this in and out, you loosen all 4 of these bolts. Well, just 3 of them actually. I never hardly ever move this. But you loosen these 3, and then there's a keeper bolt up here that won't let it go backwards or forwards to hold it there. And then once you get those loose, you can move that in or out, whatever you need to do. I had mine right, but you can see I hit it to show you it moved forward. And then you basically move it to where you want it and then lock it in. Woodmizer, it recommends a 1/4 inch, you know, on this drop down each side. So if you had this all perfectly level and you set it up just like I showed you, when you go to put down pressure with these right here, once you get this figured out where you want it, tighten the back 2 bolts that hold it on right there, the gold bolts at the top, the 2 that are side by side. You're going to drop this down. So if this is, I set mine at like 18, but it was sitting at 18 5/8. So you want the down pressure on here So you would raise your head up to 18 1/4 and drop this down 1/4 inch. Now I'm gonna tell you, on mine, sometimes I'll go more than that. I really like down pressure on this blade. You don't have steel wheels on a Super 70, so the belts tend to squeeze, letting this float. So if you don't have a lot of down pressure here and there, you can't cut as fast. So the more down pressure you have, the faster you can cut. Now, like I said, you may get blade cracks easier and faster. So it really just depends on what you're looking to do. If you're production, you know, you can go more than 1/4 inch, but if you're not production, then you can do 1/4 inch, which is what they recommend. But I run mine down just about as far as the eyes will let them go and still stay even. And so I want as much downforce as I can get on them. After you get the deflection you want, then you're going to take this tool, which is sold by Woodmizer. You may can get them other places. Just call in. They usually come with a sawmill. So if you buy a new one, you should get this. But basically, this is going to show you the tilt on your blade. So how the front and back is tilted. And one thing to look at, like if you're wondering if yours is tilted wrong without even checking it with this tool, if the back of the blade guide is wore out way more than the front, or vice versa, it's coned and not wearing evenly, then obviously the front of your blade has more deflection, or the back, whichever one's wearing, more than the front, and it's not wearing level because the tension isn't proper across it. So that's a telltale signs on that. And like I said, once you get your deflection to where you want it, where you can get these as tight as you want or loose as you want, then you can do the tilt. And basically you stick this on here in between make sure it's between the teeth. And then you're going to check out here and on the back just pick a spot on here, run your blade guide over here, and then you're going to check this side and see where your tilt is as your tape measure. So if you come out here and the front of that blade is tilted at 20 and the back is 19, then your blade is tilted like that. Now, if you've got brand new guide blocks and all the stuff proper, we run ours about a 32nd down in the front, or perfectly level. A lot of people like to run it perfectly level, but the harder you push it, the more it wants to fold up. You know, the front of it takes all the pressure, so it wants to fold up. And your blade guide is to keep it from doing that. As it goes back, it's able to do that. But if you're pushing them super hard, for some reason, this out here will still tilt up like that as it takes pressure. So if you've got it a 32nd down in the front, then you tends to push it a little harder. Like I said, it's just a fractional hair. You don't want it down or way up. You just want it almost level, or just like a 32nd down in the front. And like I said, when you're in this stuff here, I mean, you can see how easy I can tilt that. I mean, take a finger and tilt it up. So you know, pushing it through hard hickory, it's going to try to push it up. Now, if you stuck around till the end, I want to show you guys a little trick that I do to get more deflection on my blade. If you look up and under here, see those washers in between there? I gap that with those washers, dropping this down further and this down, and then this, and that gives me where I can make the two deflect even harder on the blade. And so I can get more deflection doing that, which will make me be able to push this blade harder. Because a lot of the times you can't get very much deflection on this. I can roll my blade, it won't spin in there. You're gonna wanna set your scale to the blade out there. So you're gonna measure the blade down to the bed rail right here, to the blade, and then you're gonna see what it is. So if it measures 12 out there and it says 13 in here, then you're gonna go to head calibration, and then you'll click this and you'll calibrate it to whatever it says out there. So let's see what we got. We're gonna saw a tie out of this pallet material. Let me tighten my drive belt up a little bit. This is a hickory log. Thing's hard. I don't have anybody here right now. Just me. I just stayed over and aligned all this, so none of my guys had to stay with me. I know that thing is cutting extremely flat. I mean, extremely flat. Looks good. Let's see what we got. I'll go out here and measure it and tell you guys. So we're spot on with the flatness. It's like 9 1/8 on each side. Now let's see how it is on these bunkers. That'll tell me. Now we'll get our 7. No, it's hard. you down closer to it. You want that motor to bog like that. That's when you know you got good belt pressure. Mine's getting a little bit old. There we go. I've been looking for a square everywhere over here. I've got 2 or 3 of them. Can't find one anywhere. I don't know where it's at, but anyway, I'll show you this cant on the end. That way you can see it. I wanted to show you the squareness of it, but can't find my square anywhere, so that ain't gonna do no good. But like I said, if you get that deflection down, you get everything right, you can absolutely modoc through logs and make, you know, the faster you can go, the more money you're gonna make. So like I said, I like a lot of deflection on mine, and you know, want your blade tilt really good. And like I said in the other video, if you haven't seen my channel, we're running an aftermarket belt that I like a lot better than Woodmizer's. So this is basically all for a Super 70. So if you want one of them, go back to the video. I'll put it in the bio. Just click more below the link, and that'll help you guys get one of those if you're wanting one.